Welcome to the Lovestead.
Hi everyone, happy Monday. Welcome to another vlog. How are you doing? This week is kind of a busy work week for me, so I don't know how much reading that I'm actually going to be able to get done this week, but let me go ahead and share with you what I am working on. First is Romeow and Juliet by Kathi Daley. This is a cozy mystery that I'm reading from Kindle Unlimited right now. This is about a woman. I've already forgot the protagonist's name. That's awesome. I remember all of her friends' names. Anyway, the protagonist is a woman who lives on Madrona Island, which is outside of like Vancouver in the Washington Pacific Northwest area. And right now there's a big debate going on in the community about, making the island more attractive to tourists or trying to keep the island authentic in the old ways, basically. So the person who gets murdered in this book is someone who is on the city council and someone who may or may not have opposed construction of a new condominium unit going up that would attract tourists. And the main character, she is buying an old cannery from the realtor who is on city council who was murdered, and they can't move into the cannery until they figure out the mystery, because right now the cannery is a crime scene. So the sleuth ends up being this woman who is trying to buy the cannery with her best friend. Her goal is to turn the cannery into a coffee shop, bookstore, cat cafe, which sounds amazing. She manages a cat rescue sanctuary with her aunt, and so far I like this book. There has been a spot of fat phobia in it that has rubbed me the wrong way. It actually is going to drop it a full star rating for me. But aside from the fat phobia, I'm enjoying the story. I really like the setting of Madrona Island. I knew nothing about the island before reading this. And of course I love cats, so there's that. I have been working on all month Ace by Angela Chen. This is a book about asexuality. The subtitle is What Asexuality Reveals About Desire, Society, and the Meaning of Sex. For those of you who are new here and don't know me, I do identify as asexual pan-romantic, and I am very much enjoying this book so far. It is a work of nonfiction. And I'm reading it pretty slowly because I find that I just have to take it in little bites and digest what I've read before I can move on, because the information is so good, but it's also very like complex and research and data heavy. So I have to take a minute and like think about what I just read, let it sit for a minute, digest it, think about it, and then move on to the next little section in the book. And that's worked really well for me because I feel like I'm getting a lot out of this book, but it is taking me a long time to read it. So there's that, and that's okay. I am also listening on audiobook to The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. This is part of the Dark Academics book club pick for June and July. And I had tried to read this last year, but ended up DNFing it at a certain part that just got very slow. And so I'm trying it this time on audiobook. And last week I got through the part that I read the first time that I read it. And now I'm getting into the new material, the stuff that's new to me. So I will continue to listen to that on audiobook this week. I would also like to get to Ghochar, which is a book that I had planned for last week that I never got to. This is a book in translation by Vivek Shanbhag. This is about a family whose uncle founds a spice company, and the income that they get from this new spice company moves them into a new economic bracket in India. And so it's just that family's experience of switching economic brackets and some of the conflict and issues that arise with that. This is just a short little book, and if I read it in between bigger books, I should be able to get through this. I could even get through this in one sitting if I have a day to sit down and read for a few hours. So I'm really hoping to be able to get to it this week. As I said, it was for the Lit with Indian Lit readathon that was hosted back in, I want to say, April. I'm really behind on my readathons. So this is on my TBR for the week. Also from my library, I also have finally checked out from my library's digital collection, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. It's a dark romance. That's all that I know about this book. Somebody on BookTube had talked about this in a video recommending different dark romances, and when I watched the video, it sounded really good to me, so I immediately went and put this on hold. I've had it on hold for literally 6 months. And it has come available, so I have 2 weeks to read it, and so I definitely am going to get to this one this week. And that's all that I really have planned for my reading. If you've watched my vlogs before, you know that sometimes my reading plans do get derailed. So we'll have to see what happens and kind of take it from there. Good morning. It's Tuesday morning and I do have a reading update for you. Ooh, my coffee is way too hot still. Yesterday I finished Romeow and Juliet. This was actually a really short book, much shorter than I was expecting. It was under 200 pages. And even for a cozy mystery, that feels really short. I liked it. This cover is just the cutest. I love the cover so much. All the blue and the kitties. That's Romeow. That's Juliet. They're so cute. Anyway, come to find out, this book series, the titles are usually based on classic books or fairy tales, which is kind of fun. So the second book in the series is called The Mad Catter. Anyway, I enjoyed it. As I said, it was a little short and I felt like the ending was abrupt. I got to the end and I was like swiping like, wait, that's it? There's not more. Because some parts of the mystery are left unsolved. And I think it's because Kathi Daley is doing a good job of enticing us into reading the next book, which I will read. For a first book in a cozy mystery, a lot of the times they're like the least good. And from what I'm hearing from my friend Ro, who has read over 600 cozies, she says that a lot of times a series has to kind of build as the books go on. So the first book a lot of times can be kind of meh, but then after that they just get better and better. And I have a hunch that that might be the case for this series, because the first book was kind of a lot of setup, like getting us acquainted to the island and the layout of the island, like the different cities within the island, getting us acquainted with the main character Caitlin and her goals of opening a bookshop, coffee bar, cat cafe. Sounds amazing. and the work that she does with her aunt on the cat sanctuary side of things. It was getting to know like her friends, her families, her love interests, and that was kind of the crux of the story, which I'm okay with. I like that. That's like one of my favorite parts of a cozy mystery. It's not the mystery or the like thrill. Like if I want a thrilling, like fast-paced, on the edge of your seat murder mystery, I'm gonna read a thriller or mystery thriller rather than a cozy. I really do read cozies because it's a chance just to live someone else's life for a little bit, including the mundane parts of their life. And I'm a little bit of a voyeur, not in a sexual way, but like I just am so curious about how people live out their day-to-day lives. And it's interesting, Donna Tartt writes about this in the Goldfinch too, how like if we can just peek in someone's window and see like how they spend their evening, what they do on the day-to-day, who their friends are. Like I'm really curious about everybody's mundaneness. And I'm really curious about what they do at work and how they got there and like what their relationships are like and just what they do on the day to day. Like what time do you get up in the morning? Just the mundane things. I always am just wanting to know that about people. And a cozy mystery really is insight into the everyday mundane activities that we do in a life, and it satisfies that like voyeurism in me of being able to peek into how somebody lives without it being inappropriate. It's the same reason that I absolutely love following the royal family and you know all the different royal families, because it allows me to just like peek into someone's life and kind of observe someone's life a la the Truman Show style, if you're old enough to remember what that movie is about. If the Truman Show were a real show, I would eat that up. Like, I love it. So what did I rate this book? I give it 3 stars out of 5 because it's more like a 2.5, but I'm rounding up because I'm trying to be a little less of a jerk about my book ratings. But if I'm being honest, it's more of a 2.5. So the fat phobia scene really dropped it a full star for me. And that abrupt ending and just the shortness of it, it didn't work for me, but I understand how it's going to work within the scope of the series. So that would only drop it like a half star, if that. So it's like a 2.53 rating for me. And I do plan on continuing the series. I don't know when I'll get to the next one in the series, but I am going to continue it. So that was a fun one. See if my coffee is still too hot. No. I started Ghochar last night. I'll probably be able to finish this today. I read 20 some pages of it last night and it's only like 112 pages long. So yeah, I'll be able to get through this probably today. And I like this so far. It is literary fiction and obviously it's a novella, but it is about mostly family dynamics. And so far, it really just kind of is mapping out the dynamics of one particular family. And there's a character in it that I love though, and the character is a bit of an archetype. It's like the wise storekeeper. And that's an archetypal character that I adore. Like the storekeeper who has a coffee shop and listens to everybody's problems and doles out wisdom. The bookshop owner who listens to everyone's problems and doles out wisdom and has like an ethereal quality about them. The bar owner, the gas station attendant who doles out wisdom. You know, like just that character of the wise shopkeeper. In the first chapter, there is a coffee bar that the main character goes to, and the owner of the bar is like a wise character who has almost like an ethereal quality about him, and I love that character archetype. I really do. The dogs were out for a walk and now they're home. So they gotta let me know that they're home. Brandon took them out, so. There's Orlando. Just waiting for Maggie. You'll be able to hear her when she runs up. There she is. Hi guys, how was your walk? Was it good? Did you get your poops out? Alright, that's my update for today. I'm going to continue reading this tonight, and we'll see you then. I bought this food scale so that I could measure how many tomatoes I'm able to grow this year by pound. My goal is to grow as many tomatoes as possible, and then next year to grow even more tomatoes because I want a can so that we've got like fresh tomato sauce and stuff year round. So let's open this baby up and see what it does. This is what it looks like. I got the blue color, and it takes a AAA battery, which they sent along. Let's look at the batteries in there. Okay. Oh, looky there. So, okay, let me think here. Let's just first measure. Okay, so that means that tare means you can set the thing here, reset it at 0, and then, wow, it is really sensitive, isn't it? And then you add in whatever food you're trying to measure. So let's add in, I have not eaten any tomatoes yet because I've been wanting to measure how many I've grown so far. So we're going to put them all in here and then wash them up so that I can actually start eating them. So that's just what I picked today. This is from yesterday. And then I have in the fridge from previous days. This is from last week. So get it all in there. Let's see what it comes out to. Okay. So I don't know that you can see that, but it says point. Ooh, I touched it and it changed. It says 0.988. So I've grown about 1 pound of cherry tomatoes so far. That's awesome. Hello, it is Wednesday. I'm just getting off work, so I wanted to check in with you because I do have a reading update. Yesterday I finished Ghochar by Vivek Shanbhag, translated by Srinath Peruer, and I gave it 3 stars out of 5. This book is about a family that moves up an income bracket in India. The uncle of the family establishes a spice company and it increases their wealth substantially. It really is just kind of a slice of life book, and the story breaks up each family member by chapter and kind of tells the story of that family member in each chapter. And it just, that's all it does. There's not a whole lot to it. It's kind of like a family portrait. You know, like when you sit for a painting, it's like it's a family portrait more than an actual story, I want to say. There's not much in terms of a plot. The closest thing we get to a plot is that the uncle's business isn't quite on the level, and that causes some tension within the family, and there's a little bit of build-up as to, you know, are the police going to get involved? And otherwise, it really does just look at the family members and explains each family member's story and how the family members are woven together to form a really cohesive unit, whether it's healthy or not healthy. I don't know. I didn't love it. I didn't feel like there was enough here. Like, I wanted more. I wanted more meat. I wanted more oomph, more heft to this story. And I don't think it's going to be one that I really remember down the road. I don't find the story to be particularly memorable. I don't find the characters to be particularly memorable. I don't regret reading it. I think it's fine. It's a fine book. And I gave it 3 stars out of 5, but I'm probably going to unhaul it because I don't foresee myself ever wanting to reread it. So that is Ghochar. I am pretty disappointed, actually. I was even in the mood to really sink my teeth into some good literary fiction. This just wasn't it for me. Next, I am going to start reading It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover and check in with you when I've got an update. Another thing I want to mention, we did release The Butterflies, but I did a terrible job filming it. Like, terrible job filming it. I will share with you the clips that I have. So that's it's so bad, but that's what we have for butterfly release footage. I did go ahead and order some more caterpillars, so hopefully if the caterpillars arrive and they make it, we'll have a better release video for you. Time for a quick garden tour. Impatiens and Creeping Jenny. Herbs and geraniums. We had a heat wave come through that killed off some of my tomatoes, but cherry tomato. Black Kieran tomato, dead tomato. Cayenne pepper, petunias. Basil, cayenne pepper. This is beefsteak tomato, begonia, brandywine tomato, petunias. Chiltepane pepper, early girl tomato. I don't know what those flowers are called. Dead tomato. Dr. Wychee tomato, petunias, basil, toppled rosebush, thyme, rosemary, mint, sage, bell pepper, cucumbers, dead tomato, jalapeno, Italian heirloom tomato. That's your garden tour for the week. Happy Monday. I am going to go ahead and wrap up this vlog so I can start the next one. So I finished It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I did like the book. There were some pacing issues that I didn't particularly like, that didn't work well for me as a reader. But overall, I thought that Colleen Hoover did a really wonderful job of illustrating domestic violence and the psychological aspects of domestic violence. There's one passage in particular that I feel like sums it up so well as to what happens in a woman's mind and how they end up actually staying in an abusive relationship. So this was on page 335, and it is Lily's mom talking. So she says, "We all have a limit, what we're willing to put up with before we break. When I married your father, I knew exactly what my limit was, but slowly, with every incident, my limit was pushed a little more and a little more. The first time your father hit me, he was immediately sorry. He swore it would never happen again. The second time he hit me, he was even more sorry. The third time it happened, it was more than a hit. It was a beating, and every single time I took him back. But the fourth time it was only a slap. And when that happened, I felt relieved. I remember thinking, at least he didn't beat me this time. This wasn't so bad." She brings a napkin up to her eyes and says, "Every incident chips away at your limit. Every time you choose to stay, it makes the next time that much harder to leave. Eventually you lose sight of your limit altogether because you start to think, I've lasted 5 years now. What's 5 more?" I feel like that explains it so well. Just that chipping away of a woman's boundaries and that psychological cycle of abuse that happens in abusive relationships. So for a rating, I am giving this book 3 stars out of 5. It was really close to a 4-star read, but just the pacing issues didn't work for me. And like Lily, that's spoilery, I won't go into it. But yeah, it was mainly the pacing. So overall, I enjoyed the book. 3 stars out of 5. I will read more Colleen Hoover. But this was triggering for me, and if you've ever experienced any kind of abuse at any level, it will probably be triggering for you as well. So let's wrap up what I have read this week. First, I finished Romeow and Juliet, a cozy mystery by Kathi Daley. I ended up giving that 3 stars out of 5. Next, I read Ghochar by Vivek Shanbhag. This is a literary fiction novella, and I gave this 3 stars out of 5. I finished It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, a dark romance, and I gave that 3 stars out of 5. I also continued to listen to The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt on audiobook. I'm not quite through it yet. I'm getting closer, but I am loving that book, y'all. Last night when I was listening to it, I was listening while I was working on my bullet journal, and it took a turn. It took a turn I did not see coming. And it's also quite a dark and depressing story, but Donna Tartt tells it so beautifully, and I'm actually really enjoying it on audiobook. And then I also made progress in Ace by Angela Chen, What Asexuality Reveals About Desire, Society, and the Meaning of Sex. I'm a little over halfway through this one. Also really enjoying this book. That is what I read this week, and that'll do it for this week's vlog. So until next time, make sure that you continue to read good books, drink good coffee, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye! I am giving this book 3 stars out of 5. It was really close to a 4-star read, but just the pacing issues didn't work for me. And like Lily, that's spoilery, I won't go into it. But yeah, it was mainly the pacing. So overall, I enjoyed the book. 3 stars out of 5. I will read more Colleen Hoover. But this was triggering for me, and if you've ever experienced any kind of abuse at any level, it will probably be triggering for you as well. So let's wrap up what I have read this week. First, I finished Romeow and Juliet, a cozy mystery by Kathi Daley. I ended up giving that 3 stars out of 5. Next, I read Ghochar by Vivek Shanbhag. This is a literary fiction novella, and I gave this 3 stars out of 5. I finished It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, a dark romance, and I gave that 3 stars out of 5. I also continued to listen to The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt on audiobook. I'm not quite through it yet. I'm getting closer. But I am loving that book, y'all. Last night when I was listening to it, I was listening while I was working on my bullet journal, and it took a turn. It took a turn I did not see coming. And it's also quite a dark and depressing story, but Donna Tartt tells it so beautifully, and I'm actually really enjoying it on audiobook. And then I also made progress in Ace by Angela Chen, What Asexuality Reveals About Desire, Society, and the Meaning of Sex. I'm a little over halfway through this one. Also really enjoying this book. That is what I read this week, and that'll do it for this week's vlog. So until next time, make sure that you continue to read good books, drink good coffee, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye!